Gun violence in Philadelphia has escalated to numbers not seen in more than a decade. The NBC 10 investigators looked at how often the shootings are solved.
They found police having a hard time making arrests and getting criminals off our streets. NBC 10 investigative reporter Claudia Vargas takes a look at why authorities
Mohammed Sisi's family is still grieving his death, a life cut short at 18. Mohammed was a talented cellist, a devoted son and brother. As looters and protesters took to the streets this spring in West Philadelphia, Mohammed was at home. His mother asked him not to go outside that night.
You were scared?
I was scared. I said, don't go outside today.
Around midnight on June 1st, amid the chaos, Mohammed and two friends left the house on North Hobart Street. They only made it to the big tree on the corner before police say people inside a dark-colored car opened fire on the boys. Mohammed was hit, collapsing by the tree. He was rushed to the hospital where he later died.
They told you that your son had died?
That's a problem.
His 17-year-old friend was also shot but survived. Police have not yet found the shooters.
And every shooting.
Deputy Commissioner Ben Nash is overseeing the investigation. He says the motive for Mohammed's killing is unclear.
It looks like he was a true victim of happenstance. He has nothing in his record to indicate that there should be anybody that's looking to take his life.
Mohammed's case is one of more than 230 gun homicides this year that, as of October, remain unsolved. Arrests have been made in 83. And in cases where the shooting victim has survived, police are having even fewer successes in solving those. Only 16% of those cases have been solved. Nash says police are overwhelmed with the surge in shootings. He blames COVID-19 and the summer civil unrest for the increase in gun violence.
I think it's fair to say that there became a sense of lawlessness.
But even before this year, police weren't having much luck closing cases. Since 2016, shooters are caught in one of every 4 incidents. Nash tells us sometimes shooting victims who survive know who shot them, but won't tell police. Other times, eyewitnesses are reluctant to speak.
If we don't have video to show exactly what happened and how it happened, we are having a hard time in clearing that.
Nash says if every household and business had a security camera, police would do a better job at solving crimes.
So you're asking community members to cooperate, obviously, perhaps put cameras, but what is the police department doing to increase the clearance rates?
Well, we're working by putting detectives in identifying the areas. First off, we're identifying the areas with our patrol to try and stop the shootings from happening.
He tells us detectives are working longer hours and more police officers are assigned to hotspots.
I'm curious of the ratio, like how many shootings do we have so far this year?
We're over 1,600.
Over 1,600?
Shot.
And how many cops do we have working on those?
Well, I'm just not able to get into the specifics.
While police won't say how many detectives it has investigating non-fatal shootings, it did confirm 98 officers are working on homicides.
In an ideal world, Nash says he would have more investigators, but former criminals say even if you put more cops on the street, that's not going to get rid of the mistrust some people have in police.
I'm a person that was once part of the problem.
Dawood Bey is a former drug dealer who is now an anti-violence activist. Bey says it's hard to get people to cooperate with police. The no snitch mentality has been around for decades.
It's about us changing or demystifying the codes of the streets, because the streets is lying to our kids too much and telling them certain things that's cool, that's really not cool.
He says breaking that code requires reforming the police, including having more black police officers and more youth programs.
Well, we're going to ask the governor and the mayor to classify gun violence as a public health emergency, like a pandemic. We have to treat it like it's a disease.
But in the meantime, there are thousands of families still waiting for a resolution to their loved one's shooting, including Manan Sisi. An arrest in her son's murder would mean that another family might be spared from the pain she experienced. For the investigators, I'm Claudia Vargas, NBC 10 News. Count on it.
This is NBC 10 News.
This is Mohammed Sisi. just one of hundreds of faces caught up in Philadelphia's rising violence. The 18-year-old was a promising musician, but now Muhammad and one of his friends are two of the more than 1,600 shooting victims in Philadelphia.
You might be able to help police. Take a look at this video. Police say that the people getting out of that late model Ford Fusion and walking down the sidewalk are the ones who shot Muhammad. It's an example of the surging gun violence in Philadelphia, and the NBC 10 investigators found city officials can't seem to keep up or lock up the offenders.
Investigative reporter Claudia Vargas gets a first-hand look at one group's boots-on-the-ground approach to crime prevention.
One mind at a time.
A group is trying to convince people to put the guns down.
Resources, you know what I'm saying? Trying to stop some of these shootings.
Shondell Ravel is the executive director of the Mayor's Office of Violence Prevention. He runs the Community Crisis Intervention Program. We went out on a recent night with Ravel and his team, unofficially called the Violence Interrupters. They canvass the city's neighborhoods where shootings have occurred. The interrupters connect people to services and programs, even jobs.
If you know somebody who needs something, you know what I'm saying? Shout at us, for real.
We were alongside as they responded to several shootings.
Any kids or anything out? No. Nothing we need to deal with? All right.
Ravel went behind the police tape and spoke with some residents.
If you need something, you let me know.
His goal is to diffuse tensions and again offer community programs. But a crucial role for the interrupters is helping bridge the trust between community and police.
Yes. Yeah, come on now.
The woman who pulled Ravel aside told him her family has information on a shooting, but don't want to provide it directly to police.
They said that they know exactly who committed the crime.
The mistrust in police makes it hard for the cops to solve crimes. As of October, 18% of the 1,600 shootings this year had been solved. And even the cases that end up in an arrest may end up dismissed or withdrawn in court.
That's one of the contributing factors that people rely upon. You know, I can say that, you know, to a certain degree that people in the streets, you know, they feel the unrest.
Since District Attorney Larry Krasner took office in 2018, the percentage of gun crime cases that have been either dismissed or withdrawn have gone from 30% in 2018 to 46% in 2020. And those numbers are a far drop from 2015 when the rate was just 18%.
The DA tells us shooting cases are tough to prove in court.
With shooting cases, often even the victim doesn't want to talk about it because sometimes there are things they don't want to talk about.
He went on to say that some witnesses don't trust the system.
The reluctant witnesses existed before. I mean, it's not the sort of thing where it's just a new phenomenon in the last 2 years. So what do you think is the difference between, you know, your predecessors and now you with the conviction rates?
I mean, you say that, but I don't know that. I don't know whether the reality is that the investigations that were coming in 2, 3, 4 years ago were a little more complete.
Krasner says his office is reviewing case outcomes to determine why conviction rates have dropped under his watch. Conviction rates for all firearm offenses went from 61% in 2018 to 47% in 2019. So far this year, that rate is at 48%.
I've looked at several cases where we called all the right witnesses, we put all the right witnesses on, we presented the case to the judge, and unfortunately, the evidence was insufficient.
He says the judges were right in dismissing those cases.
So are the police not doing a good enough job, or?
I don't want to say that until we finished our study.
Regardless of the outcome of the study, Krasner's already calling for improved forensic tools for Philly PD.
I'm going to follow up.
Back with the Violence Interrupters, we find our way to the 200 block of Simpson Street. 7-year-old Zamar Jones was shot and killed here in August. 3 men were arrested in connection with the homicide. That's one block Ravel considers a win.
So how do you measure success here? Like, why do you think this block was successful?
Do you hear any gunshots? There hasn't been violence here in 6 weeks and some change. If that's not success, I don't know what is.
For the investigators, I'm Claudia Vargas, NBC 10 News. Count on it.